Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
All right, and we are off and running. I wish I was better at this, but I'm really not. Let's fix this.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Nerf Herder Council. That guy is AJ, and he's in a single now. I'm back to a double. My name is Discuss Metal Joe, and we're going to talk about Maul tonight.
Oh, way to botch the intro. Oh, I'm so good at this. This is why I'm the co-host and not the main host, because I don't know how to work StreamYard, y'all. Anyway, hey, welcome to the show, guys. Let me get through some intro plugs here, as you know. First off, we are live on the Virtual Cantina Network and our own socials. So we are live on our Facebook pages. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch.tv as well. You can catch us at any of those places. Make sure that if you are watching, make sure to give it a like and a subscribe. If you're not subscribed, then please do hit that. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help us with our viewership and get us into the algorithm a little bit better. And make sure you hit a like on this video as well, because that also tells YouTube that you actually enjoyed what you watched, and maybe someone else will too. So that helps us out greatly. By the way, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. You get to keep that whether you keep the audiobook or not. But there's a ton of great Star Wars titles out there. Highly recommend Darth Plagueis. I know it's an older one. It's considered Legends now, but it does actually feature towards the later stages of the book the character we're talking about tonight, which is Darth Maul. And I just wanted to let you know, if you want to get any merchandise from the Virtual Cantina Network, you can find that at tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Or if you want some fine Nerf Herder Council swag, you can go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com for all of your merchandise needs. Now, my co-host tonight, because my main host, John Drake, is out in Knoxville tonight watching a concert with his awesome wife, my sister-in-law. I am covering tonight with my buddy here, Joseph Wren of the Fright Lab of Discography Discussion, discussmetal.com. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing pretty good. You know, one time, because he's not here.
Oh, come on!
And that's all you get tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited to be talking about Maul. I mean, is it Maul or is it... I like the way you kind of have it in the title card here below me. It's more like Maul. At least that's what he wants us to say after Clone Wars, Rebels. I mean, he didn't say a lot in his first appearance, right?
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's how Sam Witwer would have you do it. You know, it's not Maul, it's Maul. So,
and he is the voice of Maul now. So we gotta do it that way. Absolutely, 100%. Also, I'm a little shocked that throughout that introduction, you didn't once mention all of the perks you have at Patreon, and I feel like you need to get that out of the way so that I don't have to do it for you.
Okay, well, usually I say that for the end, but yes, we do have a Patreon. You can get the audio version of this podcast a couple days early for only $1 mere a month. For $3 a month, we will be happy to mention you by name in the broadcast as well. So you have all that stuff. We do have some bonus content planned for later in the year. We have video commentaries and maybe some Let's Plays and other bonus content as well. So if you feel like chipping in $1 to $3 per month, by all means, go to patreon.com/user/NHC podcast. Now, Joseph Wren, you have a few podcasts of your own. Would you like to get your plugs in real quick and early?
Oh, if you insist, I'll do the fast version. If you are a fan of all things heavy metal, you need to be listening to all the podcasts we are creating at discussmetal.com. We talk about your favorite bands, my favorite bands. This guy loves Wolfgang Van Halen almost as much as I do, and not quite as much as his brother does. We just talked about that with my wonderful co-host, Lucas. Also, spooky subjects, thefrightlab.com. We talk about them. Speaking of spooky, is there a character in the second half of, I want to call it the Lucas era, that had more mysterious qualities about him? Because no one can argue in the entirety of Star Wars that the Emperor, Palpatine, Darth Plagueis, there is no one more evil. Not really. You could make an argument for Plagueis, because, you know, he literally stole life force from people. Like, that's actually terrifying. But when you've had 20 years of the same bad guys for the same good guys, and that was all we had, we had a character who just had a really weird looking face and didn't say anything, and his actual introduction was, and my lightsaber has two sides.
You know, that's a great launching point for the Darth Maul discussion, because I feel like one thing I want to talk about right off the bat is some of the stigma around this show coming up. So Maul Shadow Lord debuts in about 2 weeks, right? I should have this ready to go. Yeah, okay. So we've got it on April 6th is the debut. So my calendar says that is just a mere 10 days away. So
count them.
Here's what the haters say about this show. We don't need it.
AKA Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
The ultimate haters.
Yeah, the case for we don't need it is we've already had a lot of Darth Maul stories, and we know how his story ends. To which I say, well, we knew that Darth Vader died at the end of Return of the Jedi. So did we need episode 1, 2, and 3? We already know how Anakin's story ends.
And I was saving this joke for later on in the show, but how many Sith Lords does it take to get tossed down a giant shaft and nobody checks to see if the body's actually dead? The answer is 2 that we know of, because, yeah, we know how Maul's story ends, and then they found another way to end it. So with the world between worlds and all the other excuses I can make, nothing says you know how it ends, and nothing says you have all of the information that you need. There's a good prequel. There's a good midquel. I hate that I have to say that, because I generally dislike prequels, as you don't know what to do with the character, so your only solution is go back in time and tell me their backstory. That doesn't make the story better most of the time. But every character can have interesting things that happen that don't necessarily impact the story that you know, but they might give you a little more insight into that person. And as much as Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, has been talked about on this podcast,
yes, it has.
I would argue that there's nothing wrong with that if you assume that that is just a thing that happened that Obi-Wan never talked about again. There's a lot of people who have lived a long life who, if you ask them about it, they might tell you. But the ones that have that weird personality quirk, you know that something happened, and they're not going to explain it because they've let it go. And I think that Star Wars is the perfect example of that in sci-fi, where as fans, we don't have 100% of the fleshed out stories that we want anymore. And that is where I might disagree with you, AJ, because we had a lot of those stories until Disney signed a check. And now those stories are legends, and they get to do whatever they want, which means they're making up the middle. I'm okay with it, because the best heroes, the best villains, again, this is Star Wars. We're talking about Luke Skywalker et al.
Mm-hmm.
We don't get as much as we want as fans, which leaves us wanting more. So we're going to give you more of a character that every time we've given him to you, you feel like you've been let down a little bit. Prequels. One shot. He's gone. Everything that you're going to talk about in a couple minutes with Clone Wars and Rebels, etc. Then you get a little cameo in recent memory, which I was just fine with, because it was an acknowledgement that that character still existed. But we always feel like we've been let down a little bit when you don't do our character justice. And for a lot of people, Darth Maul is the bad guy that's not Darth Vader that they love. I had an unrealistic love of Darth Vader when I was a kid. No reason for it. But it's like wrestling. There's no reason why I like The Ultimate Warrior. The only matches I saw were on Saturday morning, and they were squash matches, right?
Yeah.
But it's the toys. It's the toys, AJ, I'm telling you. And for a lot of people, I think Darth Maul is that bad guy. So, great. we're taking a little hiatus from the Skywalker franchise and going to tell a little bit more story about this guy that we all want more of. Because he's not just the silent protagonist with a double-sided saber anymore. He's been pretty well fleshed out, and for a lot of people, they've grown up, and they want a little more Maul than what they got when the CGI looked like Clone Wars, if you know what I mean.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because this is where the trope of no one's ever really dead in Star Wars began. And also, this is a great contrast to the number of times we've talked about Boba Fett, where Boba Fett was a guy who we only got a sliver of him, got a little, like a glimpse in Empire, and then he went out like a punk in Return of the Jedi, and that was it. But he was cool based on looks alone. Like, he didn't need to speak. He didn't need a backstory and all that stuff. He just looked cool, and everybody was all about Boba Fett.
And even when
Darth
he did
Maul?
talk, modulated voice, which wins every time.
Yeah, Darth Maul, same thing, though. A man of few words. He was a man of more words originally, and then they cut it down because they realized that basically he speaks through actions. He doesn't need to speak to be a character. And when they brought him back in Clone Wars, then we started getting more of the character behind the persona. And it's interesting to see that evolution because, like you said, in this case, I don't think the hype for Maul has really died down with the additional chapters to his story that we've received. Whereas with Boba Fett, the hype definitely waned the more we peeled back those layers and the mystery was revealed. You know what I mean?
And I think for some people, Boba Fett is an easy attack point, right? Because when that character's backstory is the Clone Wars and he's an unmodified Jango Fett, then for some people that's a little less interesting. But let's not be nihilistic about this franchise that we love. That's the story, whatever. Character was still cool, even if you're not happy with the origin. With Maul, it was like a fun secret. When we didn't have the prequels, and I have to throw myself in this in this pile. I didn't read a lot of the books. I probably read one or two, and I'm sure one of them was just the book version of Return of the Jedi. So others in my friend circle had read more of the books, so they knew things like walking into the prequels, 10 years after this conversation occurred. They knew that Darth Vader got burned in a volcano. I didn't know that. And looking back on it, I'm kind of surprised George Lucas stuck to that so hard. Like, no, maybe he kind of made that choice a while back, even if we argue those movies are silly at times, as again, has been talked about a lot on this show. With Maul, it was kind of that, it was another version of that, where if you kept paying attention, you saw that this wasn't just a character that was full of himself, who spoke through actions, yes, but you got to see him kind of descend a little bit into madness. And I know you're going to correct me a lot on when this information came through, but I don't know where you found out about how he got out of that hole. I think that was the comics. I don't think they touched on that in Clone Wars, but I haven't consumed 100% of that into my memory.
It's
so
Clone Wars.
You get that fun little story, though, right? If you're still paying attention, you start to learn more about the character, and you get to enjoy he's insane for many reasons. And most of them are pointing back to, that motherfucker cut me in half. That's not possible.
I'm sorry. I'm just going back to Dewey Cox. That's the worst case of getting cut in half I ever seen. Oh my God, yeah.
Good job
if
there,
anything's
AJ.
going to make you a little batshit, it's maybe getting bisected. Just a thought. I've never been cut in half, but I would guess I'd be pretty pissed about it if I was.
It's like Christopher Lloyd at Suburban Commando. I was frozen today.
Exactly. All right, a couple shouts out to the chats here. Miranda chiming in here. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Said, I think Maul is the bad guy everyone loves. I want to get to know all sides of him because he can't be all bad.
Tell that to Emperor Palpatine, the bad guy that everybody loves, who is all bad all the time. He's never good. If this was Baldur's Gate 3, you would just fight him at the first opportunity because he's the bad guy. Whatever he's saying, bad. Get him out of the way now.
Yeah. Maul is always a case of the enemy of my enemy is my enemy, actually. What we'll see through his history is that while his goals might align with, a Jedi from time to time or anyone who's not the bad guy, it does not mean that he's not the bad guy. He is still the bad guy, very much so. So I love that he's kind of, and Sam Witwer has gone on record as saying this, that the way that other characters evolve over time, Maul basically never does. Like, we learn more about him, but he doesn't change. And that's his ultimate downfall, is that everyone else around him that he keeps coming across time and time again, they level up over time. They get smarter. They get wiser. They put stuff behind them. Maul just stays stuck in this circle of revenge time and time again. He's a cautionary tale. Like, he's Perseus, basically. No matter what that boulder is, the boulder might change, but he's always pushing it no matter what happens. Mumbo Jimbo checking in. Hello, BCN crew and Nerf Herder Council. Thanks for tuning in, Mumbo Jimbo. Really appreciate it, man. So yeah, let's go through. What I want to do is a little different format tonight. I want to go through like all of his appearances in order throughout the saga. So not necessarily like when BBY this happened, but like, let's start at the Phantom Menace. Let's talk about how the character came about and go through all the way up to this new series that we're going to get and see like how the character has changed, because he was really one-dimensional when he started, right? Like Phantom Menace, all we saw, he was all over the marketing because he looked awesome and we needed, a Vader for the prequel trilogy. We thought it was going to be this guy because he was all over the toy packaging. He was all over the marketing and stuff. That double-bladed lightsaber in the trailer. I mean, Joe, come on, tell me. You got to have impressions of seeing that trailer for the first time, right?
I know I saw it in the theater, but I also got to see the film on opening night, and every piece of information was immediately wiped out by the key points and the key perks of episode 1, in my opinion. When the first time you see that movie, and it's the first time that movie has ever existed, you remember the lightsaber battles. You remember the puzzle solving and they're trying to kill us, you get out of here. You complain about it later, but initially it's, they got to move. You remember that, you remember the pod race, and you remember the lightsaber battle at the end. And you remember it so vividly that you don't even remember that it cuts back and forth between a space battle and other droid-related conflicts. That's how impactful that fight is. And for me, it's overwritten its own trailer in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah, I swear I remember that lightsaber fight from beat to beat to beat through the whole thing. And of course, the soundtrack is burned into everybody's eardrums by now. I mean, Duel of the Fates is one of the most legendary tracks in all of Star Wars.
Absolutely. 100%.
What I couldn't believe was how fast and crazy the lightsaber duels were. Like Return of the Jedi, obviously throughout the original trilogy, they went bigger and bolder with every one. Like the first one was just like broadswords. They were meant to be heavy, and that's why the fight was kludgy. It was a robot versus an old man. In the second one, it was just basically Luke getting bodied by Vader. There wasn't really much of a duel there, so to speak. But then by the time of Return of the Jedi, Luke can hold his own somewhat to Vader, especially when he does tap into the dark side a little bit, which was cool. We all remember that.
Absolutely.
On the Death Star in front of the Emperor. But then we get to episode 1, and it's crazy how fast and frenetic those lightsaber battles were. Like Qui-Gon fighting Darth Maul in the desert on Tatooine first was already pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And that was literally only half power for Maul because he was only using half of his lightsaber, right?
And it was a good answer to the question that we didn't know we had at the time, was if he's the Sith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has to fight one of them. He fights the master, okay, he holds his ground, there's an escape involved. Now there's two of them. How is he going to hold his ground now? Oh, wait a second. Well, nobody's ever done that before. And for the fight coordinator and Ray Park, who is a legend in that business, that's the first time someone has been able to not just really choreograph a more fluent lightsaber battle. You know, we're telling a little bit of the old story, right? There's always that conversation about the difference between the Jedi of old and what we eventually got out of George Lucas's mind with Return of the Jedi, etc. But you're not just getting the old style, you're getting a unique first time, and for a long time, you're never going to see it again. What happens when I stick two lightsabers together and use it like a staff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. One, I mean, just the addition of having a double-bladed lightsaber was amazing. What a cool addition to the lore. But also, if you've got these Jedi that are apparently at the height of their power, you know, it's before the downfall of the Republic, so they're at their peak. Their saber skills are, you know, as good as they're going to get. But they're also a little pretentious. Like, they've stood for 1,000 years. Like, they've basically been unchallenged. But we know that they're at the height of their power and their skills. So what do you do to pose a credible threat? You throw a new style at them that is like nothing we've ever seen before. And that's what you get with
Yes.
Darth Maul. Fun fact, by the way, John Williams actually wrote the score, Duel of the Fates, around the footage of the battle. He saw Ray Park doing these moves and actually set the tone and the tempo of the song to the moves of Ray Park, because he was moving so fast. He's like, oh, I have to write a fast, frenetic piece of music here. The slow, plodding, heroic stuff that I used to do won't fit this fight anymore. Like, that's how impactful the actions of Ray Park and his lightsaber battling was. Is not only did it impact the number of lines the character had, like his lines were actually stripped down after the fights were choreographed, but also the soundtrack itself was changed because it wasn't fast enough to track the fighting.
And this is one of the first questions I don't really have an answer to, because I know in the lore it's mentioned that he didn't just become highly skilled in combat, but he mastered the more aggressive forms. Is the double-bladed lightsaber a Maul decision? Is it him, you know, in his evil way, trying to make that style more aggressive? Like, I've taken this. It's never said. At least I can't think that it ever has been said. We talk about Obi-Wan being the master of defense. I don't know that anyone has ever said Maul was so aggressive that he had to make it more aggressive. But is that something he did to kind of manufacture, like you said, an aggressive style that the Jedi weren't prepared for? Or was that him trying to adapt and say, no, I can be more aggressive, master? Like, you think I'm aggressive now?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when I have two of those things? Well, you can't really use two of them in each hand. Oh, no, I want to put them together and make like a giant helicopter of death.
Don't bring up the fucking helicopter, dude. Do not do that. Oh, by the way, I pulled a JT. I forgot to say that the views and language of the Nerf Herder Council do not necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. So I'm going to honor my own rule and drink because I broke the rule and dropped an F-bomb first. What the fuck is this?
Thank you, John. We appreciate you. Also, since you are taking your first drink of the evening, I would like to give a shout out to whatever this cocktail is. I decided to add some hot sauce to a Moscow Mule and make this a Moscow Maul for the evening.
Ooh.
What are you drinking tonight, AJ?
Well, if it was made of fruit, it would be red. I have cherry Coke Zero ice cream float flavor, and in here is some Diplomatico 12-year rum. Figured I would go a little tropical with some something fruity and red.
Well done.
Closest thing I could come up with on short notice. It's fine.
It's a very silent but evil double-sided lightsaber of a drink.
Exactly. So as far as where Maul got the lightsaber, the double-bladed lightsaber from, I think that might have been covered in Maul Lockdown. I'm not sure. It's probably covered in a Legends book. I'll be honest, I do not have a full background on that. But yeah, the Moscow Meow. Yeah, right. Moscow Mall is a great idea for a drink. I think that might be a spinoff on a Friday night, Joe. We might have to come up with some themed cocktails and do a little podcasting.
Let's make it happen. And if you want to watch AJ play Hollow Knight and or Silksong on a Friday night, you can do that on Discord at discord.nhcpodcast.com. Did I get that right?
I think it's discord.nofotocouncil.com.
Even better.
I'm that clever with my domains. I'll have to look that up, actually. It's been a minute. But anyway.
Save that for later.
Yeah, right. I think it's discord.nerdfootercouncil.com. It's definitely that. I don't know if it's nhcpodcast.com as well, but anyway. So, yeah, so in the first movie, of course, we get his introduction. We get very few words, which weren't even Ray Park's voice. They dubbed that over. And then he gets cut in half, and we think that's the end of it, right? Let's hit on that real quick before we move on. Did you feel friggin' robbed like I did and probably everybody else did? I mean, he was all over the marketing. We thought this guy was going to be the big bad like Vader was for the original 3 movies. And then he gets cut in half. We're like, well, all right, that's the end of that guy. Now what? What was your reaction, Joe?
It didn't bother me because for me, I go to see the prequels in concept to figure out where Darth Vader comes from. Darth Vader, my favorite bad guy and probably one of my favorite film villains of all time. That's the reason I'm going to see Star Wars at any point. Even when the special edition or the remaster VHS tapes came out. I know there was 2 sets that they released at one point. For me, it was, and Vader's here. So I didn't feel robbed, maybe more surprised that the character wasn't in the movie as much as I thought he would be based on the marketing. But that's also a good storytelling or a good film trope of the 90s, right? If you remember Scream and how Drew Barrymore was all over the marketing for that and the killer in the first 15 minutes. Surprise, Wes Craven is a better filmmaker than you. So it didn't bother me so much as, oh, he's not the bad guy. And I think Master Yoda says it best. There's always 2. Now you don't know who the other one is. Is the other one... Are we going to get another Sith-type evil in the second film? No, just trying to set up the fact that Palpatine is the bad guy, as we all know he is, and should be taken out immediately upon first sightings. That said, it didn't bother me so much. It wasn't like this whole film trilogy of prequels was going to be built around this character. That said, you put a lot of effort into designing a really cool guy to just give me one shot and then make me wait a decade or so before you give me more of that character. Right. From a business perspective, brilliant.
I don't know. Can you imagine if in the original trilogy, when Vader just went careening off into space at the end of A New Hope, the second movie was like the Emperor and Boba Fett, I guess, would be the next biggest villain in that movie. Like, what would that trilogy have been like with Vader being built up as the big bad in the first movie and then only to be taken out? Like, obviously we knew that Sidious was involved because we saw him on screen, but you know, Maul was the guy, the boots on the ground. He was the action. He was the direct threat that the Jedi faced. To then have him go out like a punk like that, man, like my headcanon, if I could rewrite the prequels, would be some version, and Kale's got something here. He says, man, Maul should have come back with his robo legs instead of Dooku. But then we wouldn't have Christopher Lee. Maybe Dooku takes over for Grievous?
Exactly.
Yeah, you get some alternate timelines there. In my mind, and I've said this on the show before, I thought it would have been much cooler if Maul had persisted throughout the prequels and then Anakin chose to turn to the dark side and kill Maul to become Sidious's apprentice deliberately rather than simply passively wanting to save his wife. Maybe he got so desperate that he chose to take those actions instead of being like squeezed into it as he was in episode 3. You know what I mean?
See, I can't really fathom a different timeline because, yes, Christopher Lee, yes, Count Dooku, but the reason things occur the way they do from a storytelling perspective, we're trying to set up really how evil Palpatine is, that he will pretend to take somebody on just to manipulate someone else into killing them, thus fulfilling his goal of, you're going to be my actual apprentice. It's truly the expendable subordinate, and that's evil. That's evil for evil's sake, which again, it's Palpatine. So yes, you could have had you could have written it differently, but I think you had to defeat the baddest guy from our perspective, the fans, to be able to build up someone that we would believe. If there was no Maul, then the prequels is 3 movies of, well, we know Palpatine's the bad guy, we're just waiting for Vader to show up. So it's a build and without a drop. If you give me Maul, the ultimate fighter, the ultimate soldier of evil and lightsabers, and your Jedi defeat him in the first opportunity, second opportunity, there was still loss. You still had Qui-Gon, who bit the dust on that one. Obi-Wan survives, takes over, gets onto his journey of becoming amazing, and we still don't know who the other Sith is. We don't even know if we defeated, it's said in the film, we don't even know if we defeated the Master or the guy or the apprentice, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's better to look at it from that perspective. Let's go back to, what if Maul was the Master? Or at least thought he was. And we just defeated him right out of the gate. Well, now the Sith are scrambling to figure something out. Like, who's going to take over now? So I don't think there's anything wrong with the story. Yeah, it sucks, but you've got more time now with the character that you can fill in those backstories, and hence the show that we're about to get.
This is where I wish I knew anybody who had seen episode 1 as their entry point to the franchise, because obviously we already saw the original trilogy. We knew what the Emperor looked like, and it was very obvious that was Darth Sidious. So we spotted Palpatine right away. I wonder if someone who hadn't had the original trilogy as their background would have looked at episode 1 and not known, because I felt it was very heavy-handed the way it was very thinly veiled that it was the senator was the guy in the hood. I wonder if that was as obvious to people who had never seen Star Wars before. Because
Can you accept-
for us, the whole mystery of, was it the Master or the apprentice? We're like, duh, it's the apprentice. We know who the Master is. We saw him. It wasn't a mystery in the way it was told in the movie to virtually anybody, I think. But I wonder if anyone was actually fooled and was going to go in episode 2 wondering if they killed the Master or the apprentice.
If you spend 5 minutes on the YouTube rabbit hole looking for videos of parents showing Star Wars to their kids for the first time, the kids have the same reaction at the end of Empire that everybody did the first time they see Empire. So if you can accept the idea that somebody took their kids to see the Star Wars movie that's made for kids, according to the creator, for the first time, and that was their introduction to Star Wars, was it's episode 1, they exist. But like you said, it's Freddy Krueger and Star Wars are 2 franchises that you don't really have to see if you're a kid to like get it all shoved into your brain. At least that's been my experience. People that have never seen those movies, they know exactly who Freddy Krueger is. Yeah. You know who Luke Skywalker is. You know who Darth Vader is. And maybe you don't know the Emperor if you're not paying attention. But yeah, it's pretty obvious from the very first scene. I want that treaty signed. It's like, well, obviously we know. So are we supposed to be watching it? I mean, are we supposed to buy the hype so much that, yeah, we know who the bad guy is, but let's keep watching. Like, let's watch the story unfold. I think you're right. I think there was no mystery for most people that were going to see that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously we knew that it was the apprentice because we saw the guy in the hood talking. If there was any disconnect, any doubt in anyone's mind that it was the senator putting a hood up, that's what I want to know. Also, wouldn't you love to have seen like from the other side of that hollow conversation, like, here's Senator Palpatine walking around. He's like, oh, the Nemoidians. Shit, hold on a second. What do you want? Like, I would love to see that transition. Yeah.
And like his wife comes through the door and is like,
hold on a second.
His wife knocks on the bathroom. Honey, dinner's gonna be ready in 5 minutes. Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait for spaghetti. I want that treaty signed.
Yeah, right. So I think it was pretty obvious, like right after the movie came out, that they had a real missed opportunity by killing off Maul, though, because there was a ton of stuff from 2000 through 2005, basically, like everything through the prequel era in books and comics. They kept delving back into Maul, even though the guy was dead, and they had Dooku and Grievous to talk about instead. They went back to Maul again. So in what is now Legends, for example, and Dark Horse Comics had the license at the time, there was a Darth Maul comic series in 2000. So even before, they should have been building to episode 2 and talking up whatever's going to happen next. But instead, they're like, let's tell you more about the guy that got cut in half. So that was interesting right there. Like, he's basically, like you said, he's an assassin. He's not being trained fully as a Sith apprentice. He's just being used as a weapon, because his job is not to be a full apprentice. His job is not to, usurp the role of master one day. It's simply to destabilize, to cause chaos, to sow those seeds, to make the Jedi look bad. So Senator Palpatine can go to the Republic and say, look, the Jedi don't have a hold on things like we thought they did. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on out there. Meanwhile, he's the one, of course, doing it. It's really interesting because, he actually, this comic book series actually has, like, some of those thought panels that comics can have. So you get some inner monologue from Maul, because, at that time, you got to remember, he had said almost nothing in the movie, and we had nothing else to go on for characterization. So they use that in the comics as a way to, like, flesh out the character a little bit more. And what's interesting is they really went into what his motivations were and how he was just, I don't know, psychologically tortured, basically. Like, it was our first look into what a Sith apprentice goes through to really dive into their hatred and basically just drink the red Kool-Aid of the Sith, to hate the Jedi and lean into the worst aspects of their psyche. My question to you, Joe, was this even necessary? I know we've got, like, the benefit of hindsight here, but do you think that kind of an insight really lent anything to the character?
Of course it did. By design, you didn't have anything to go on except he speaks through action and he knows how to wield a lightsaber in a way that no one else has ever done, and he lost. So as a fan of the character, I think elaborating on that is 100%. I'm all for it. It's just like some of the classic Vader comics, like just watching the films and even just watching the Clone Wars and Rebels and playing the games, you don't really know how bad Darth Vader is. The comics, though, you might not like him as much. He's kind of presented in the films as, yeah, he's bad, but he just sounds like an overbearing guy when he's in the mask and he's doing the James Earl Jones voice, right? The comics are where you can really tell the dark stories, and I think it works. It's worked for DC and Marvel for years. So to just bring Maul into that and just give me some weird stuff like mechanical spider legs, and he's fucking insane, and my brother's here. Well, that's weird. Now, hang on. I'm not crazy anymore. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fashion normal legs and go commit crime.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? Because Kenobi cut me in half, and I'm going to find him someday after committing all this crime and get even with him. But we're not going to get into that just yet.
Right.
It's fine. Anytime you elaborate on a character that doesn't get a lot of time, as a fan, you kind of feel like, well, I feel cheated because you gave me a glimpse and then you took it away. But it's just storytelling, man. And it works for me because it gives you an opportunity not just to view more, but in the case of Maul, I don't think it hurts the character because the character, like you said, he doesn't really change. So seeing these little bits and pieces of this has no effect on the final result is kind of interesting. It's almost like the character's trying to adapt to the situation, but they just can't let go of the evil and the hatred. That's a Sith stereotype, right? It's the hatred is what fuels my life and fuels me to go and do terrible things to get revenge. But Maul actually does it. He might be the ultimate Sith in that way, whereas Palpatine is an amazing plot device and an amazing plotter of evil things. He keeps losing. Maul is just like, no, I'm just going to keep doing really bad stuff for no reason other than I just feel like it. I don't want to say they tried to make him into kind of a Joker character because that's a completely different type of madness, but it's more randomness. I don't think it hurts him. I think it's just fun for the fans. Like, this guy that you keep wanting us to talk about, we'll tell you some stories. It's fine.
It is an interesting parallel with Boba Fett, where you start off with this one-dimensional character. Boba Fett is just a guy in cool-looking armor, and we know he's a bounty hunter and something about disintegrations. And then you get, I hate to say anything positive about the Book of Boba Fett. I actually do like that show a little bit more than I should. But
you know why you like it?
The idea
because Mando shows up.
Yeah, I'm softer. Okay, as what my brother would call unfair as I am to Kenobi, I'm softer on Book of Boba Fett than most people are. I think there's some good stuff in there, but there's also some nonsense. But like, it's that same transition where you take a one-dimensional character and then they decide that they want to be the one in charge. So that's what Maul transitions to in the Clone Wars. Is he goes from I'm just a weapon who was discarded when I served my usefulness to now I've got designs of my own, which, of course, as we said, are revenge-based. They're all based around getting back at the Emperor and the Empire in general for tossing him aside. But he steps out of the role of just being a weapon and being the architect of the chaos instead, which I think is really interesting.
That doesn't work out well for him, does it? Especially when the guy who kind of discarded you is like, you're still here? You can't get in on this? No, absolutely not. What are you thinking right now? He didn't say it like that, but that's basically what he said, right? Like, I thought you were gone. Like, let me take care of this for real.
yeah, exactly. So you touched on it earlier. So let's just do a quick recap of the Clone Wars plot details about how Maul came back. Apparently, hatred is a powerful motivator, and it can keep you from dying if you're really like that obsessed with getting revenge on people. Because basically, it was his hatred and his desire for revenge that made him refuse to die. And then he was hauled off in a trash, basically in an intergalactic garbage truck to this junk planet because he fell into, a pile of trash, whatever the hell was at the bottom of that reactor shaft.
Casey Jones leans back and presses the button and goes, whoops, I'm sorry, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Exactly, yeah. So he assembles spider legs and really lets himself go. I mean, the dude looks crazy. He needs a good horn polishing and filing down.
They need to make that a boss of one of the future games because they haven't done it up until this point. There needs to be like you fight Maul with the spider legs. Like, dude, that'd be come crazy. Come on.
I would love that.
That's got Doom like 2016 written all over it. Yeah, you fought the Cyber Demon once, but this is the Cyber Demon. I'm sorry. I said Cyber Demon. I meant Mastermind. Kind of my bad. Sorry, everybody. Literally.
You know how the 2K games have career mode and you can go through like highlights of people's careers and stuff? I think that'd be great for Star Wars too. Be like, all right, well, You fought Maul over the reactor shaft. Now you get to fight him on the trash planet when he's been cut in half and he's got spider legs. Good luck, asshole. You know?
And each one has a lightsaber like Grievous.
Right.
Well, this isn't even remotely fair. Aim for the head.
So to catch anybody up who hasn't seen the Clone Wars, because we might have a few people in the audience here who don't actually, and this is one of the things I want to talk about later too, is, they bring them back in animation, which alone is its own thing, because you can always go from movies to TV shows because you can count on everybody having seen the movies first. They do it in the opposite way later in Maul's appearances, and I think that is an interesting point to bring up. But let's recap how he gets here. So he gets cut in half. The Clone Wars covers that he's got a brother who is basically recruited as an assassin by Asajj Ventress, of all people, who is herself an assassin hired by Count Dooku, Darth Maul's replacement. So you're following the family tree here. It's really convoluted. So Savage Opress finds out from Mother Talzin, who is apparently Maul's biological mother, and Queen Witch of the Night Sisters of Dathomir, that Maul is alive, but basically batshit crazy on this junk planet. So he goes and finds his brother, brings him back, not without difficulty, of course, because Maul be crazy. And Mother Talzin basically restores his sanity through Night Sister magic and whatever. So now he's no more Spider Maul, and now he's Robot Legs Maul, but he's got Savage Opress, who has been infused with Night Sister magic to be a big brute of what would you call him? Like an acolyte or something? Like
you had to say man. You just had to say the word acolyte. I was trying so hard to avoid the conversation, but when people brought up the whole witches, I was sitting here going, that wasn't the first time, y'all. Whatever.
But yeah, Savage is palling around with Darth Maul, but Darth Maul's calling the shots. That's basically it, right?
That's what he wants, right? He wants to be the guy in charge. Now he's got his sanity back of sorts, and yeah, I was cast out by the man who told me that he would give me everything if I just did his bidding. I'm going to go out and make my own crime empire. It sounds like every crime story you've ever heard, and I'm fine with that. I don't know if this is what we're going to get with Maul, the TV show, but that story from like a Godfather perspective or a Goodfellas perspective, not necessarily like in any way happy or campy, but just like, show me the Maul that walks down the street and says, as far back as I can remember, I wanted Kenobi to be dead. But until then, I decided to commit crime.
Right. No, that's a good jumping off point, because this is where, instead of Maul, basically he drops the Darth title entirely at this point, because he's no longer a Sith. He's just trained in the Sith arts, but he is not apprenticed to no one, right? He starts building his power, and we see in the Clone Wars, he recruits like all the criminal organizations, which is a ton of great deep cuts to Legends, like Black Sun and the Pikes, both from Legends canon and whatnot. And then also Death Watch, which is where the Mandalorians get involved, which is a huge part of Maul's story. And this is where we get Pre-Vizsla, which begets all the Vizslas that show up. So we're talking Mandalorian mythology here now too. And I mean the Mandalorian, the show, with Paz Vizsla and things like that. And he calls it the Shadow Collective. So basically, he's just amassing power because he wants to get back on Sidious's radar. He wants the Emperor to know that he's still alive and out there and can probably fuck some shit up. Now, I thought this was a really interesting turn for the character, because it proves that he's not just that blunt weapon anymore, and he actually does have a mind of his own and the ability to scheme, which maybe he got a little bit more from his master than his master intended him to learn. What do you think?
This is where I need to catch up on my classic Star Wars animation, because I know the high bullet points of that story and that conflict, but the details just, I haven't had time to consume them recently. What I remember about that was, yeah, it kind of feels like, how do we get Palpatine back into it? Because that's all the Star Wars fans want, is just find a way to make Palpatine the man behind the curtain. We're fine with that. But the idea of this character who is so obsessive, and you've mentioned it already, that he doesn't really change. He kind of just holds on to revenge and holds on. He's a bit of an anarchist. He's a bit of a shit disturber. He's a bit of, yeah, I'm not dead. I could go after you, and I could probably defeat you, but it's much better for me if I just kind of annoy you. Like, I want him to notice me because I want him to come find me. I don't want to go looking for him like, super evil Sith ninja, because that's what he's expecting. So I'm going to do the opposite and just commit petty crime and just wait for him to notice, because eventually he's going to stand up and go, what do you mean I'm not the most evil person on the planet? It sounds like a very childish thought. And maybe that's kind of the point with this character. I think I remember about the show, it just feels like, yeah, we need a reason to get the Emperor in here. But as a character, I can kind of justify it and say, yeah, this is what happens when you give somebody a lot of skill and not so much of a mindset, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, like when Savage first finds him, actually, basically, Maul doesn't know what has happened in the time since he ended up on the junk planet. So Savage has to catch him up and be like, yeah, the galaxy's at war. And Maul's like, oh shit, the guy did it. Okay, yeah, that was our plan. So apparently that went ahead without me. Fuck, what now? So that was kind of a knock, and he's like, yeah, trying to figure out like what's going on. Quick shout out, by the way, Dream Theater Girl, aka Chastity Crawley. Congratulations on the baby. That's awesome. I'm frankly shocked to see you in the chat tonight, but hey, it's awesome that you're here, and congratulations. That's so great. I love that so much for you and your family. Okay. So yeah, the moment, speaking of what Maul's doing, one of the key moments in the Clone Wars that, sorry, Joe, you haven't caught up on this, so this is going to be spoilers for you. Maul is all about revenge. So yes, he wants to get back on Palpatine's radar, but also
spoilers, AJ,
Kenobi at all. Yeah,
for a show that's been out for over 20 years at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, buddy.
What am I going to do?
It's available on Disney Plus. Go for it. But yeah, so it turns out that Obi-Wan used to have a little bit of a crush as a Padawan on the Duchess Satine Kryze of Mandalore.
Oh, back when he had his nice flowing braided lock on the right side of his head.
That's right. When he was rocking the braid, he fell in love. So what does Maul do? Well, he goes and takes over Mandalore and throws her in jail because he knows that that's going to get Kenobi's attention, which it does. And then Maul goes ahead and kills the Duchess right in front of Kenobi. That's a big old middle finger, isn't it?
That's got to be one of those details that doesn't get talked about enough, because everybody talks about Maul's final duel with Kenobi. Yeah, it's kind of more weird that Kenobi doesn't hold on to a little bit of resentment for that, right? Because that's some that's some youngling murder level shit, if you really think about it in the context of Star Wars. And yeah, I mean, is it unfair to say that feels like he's playing evil instead of actually being evil? I don't even know if I want to stand on that hill, because again, the point is revenge. So what's the most revengeful thing I can do? I can kill the people you love. Yeah, I read that in a book once. Hang on, let me go do that. Kenobi!
Yeah,
I got your woman! And a double-sided lightsaber. You want to do it again?
Right. To your point, he's all about revenge. Like, it doesn't even accomplish anything for him. He just wants Kenobi to hurt. So he kills an innocent, basically, just because he knows that Kenobi's going to hate that. And that's all he wants. He wants Kenobi to suffer, period. So at least he's consistent, he has a goal and he sticks to it. He survived being cut in half just so he could get revenge on Kenobi for cutting him in half. And then he decides killing his old girlfriend is a good way to start. Not end, of course, but start. I got to say, I think that's a pretty good start to his strategy. But it does get him on the radar of Sidious. And here is where you need to go see these episodes, Joe. I'm telling you, these episodes of the Clone Wars are
I'm going to catch up just for you,
show.
AJ.
I hot take here. I think the best episodes of the Clone Wars in general involve Darth Maul. He's the most interesting thing about that series, which is kind of a problem because it's supposed to be Anakin's deal. But you get this Mandalore arc with Maul where he begins the Shadow Collective, and then you get the lightsaber duel because Palpatine finally decides, all right, I've had enough of this shit. This guy's getting too powerful, and I got to go put him in his place. So Sidious shows up on Mandalore, and he fights Savage Opress and Darth Maul at the same time. Spoilers again. Savage Opress, he's dead. Maul loses badly, but Sidious does not kill him. In fact, it trails off with, I have other plans for you. And that's the last we know about Maul for the entire Clone Wars series until its cancellation when Disney bought Lucasfilm. Talk about a hell of a cliffhanger, right?
100%. And even after getting Rebels, where the character appears again, and I know there was one final season of Clone Wars that was later developed during the Disney process, which has some very fan-faithful duels in it that may or may not have been based on motion capture by the one and only Ray Park, a.k.a. Darth fucking Maul, physically. The idea that this character just won't go away, that everybody loves the villains in Star Wars because they really don't go away. And Maul is a character that, yeah, we know, we think we know how it ends because, well, I'm going to ask a question later on based on the interactions with Kenobi. Is Maul in any way redeemable as an individual like Vader was supposed to be? Or is it 100% hatred until the end?
You know, I think they've done a great job writing the character in such a way that it seems like he's intelligent enough to rethink his ways, and yet he always chooses not to. So is he redeemable? I think he might be capable, but he always chooses the opposite. And maybe that is what makes him a great villain, but also a compelling character. It's like, going back to your wrestling analogy, Macho Man Randy Savage. That guy, he was the madness, right? Ooh, yeah.
Snap into a Slim Jim.
Every time he was playing a heel, you're like, dude, I want to like you. If
Come
you
on.
just stopped being an asshole. And Maul is the same way. Like, he's compelling enough and he's got enough going for him that if he just, let it go and moved on to something else, he could be redeemable. But he, at every turn, anytime someone trusts him, it's like the old fable of the scorpion and the frog crossing the river, right?
Yep.
And yeah, like, why'd you sting me? Because I'm a scorpion. Like, it's just his nature. That's Maul will always backstab.
He's always looking for not the upper hand. He's always looking for the opportunity to seize. Whereas Palpatine is planning 2 or 3 steps ahead to stay above or to ascend and gain more power. And Maul's just like, well, nobody's trying to fight me right now. This is good for now. Oh, opportunity knocks.
Yeah. Yeah. He's good at scheming, but he's not as good as Palpatine is. Like, Palpatine's always got plan B, C, D, and E. And Maul's pretty much like plan A, as you like to say, full send, don't be a bitch. I mean, the man does not lack commitment. He lacks any sort of foresight to think that maybe something might interfere with his plan.
If we gave
So-
him a blaster instead of a saber, he would be taking pot shots at everybody and paying no attention to what's in the background.
Oh, right. Exactly. Exactly. So here's where it gets a little bit dicey in terms of his timeline and the Disney purchase and everything. So Clone Wars is a victim of the Disney purchase, right? So it gets canceled after season 5. We get a Netflix exclusive series of episodes that is what they had basically finished for what would have been season 6 if it hadn't been canceled. It was called The Lost Missions, and it kind of jumps around a little bit. What they also did is they took some of those Clone Wars scripts that were already written for season 7 and 8 and adapted them into other media, right? Like we've got the Savage Press book, not Savage Press, sorry. Too many similar names among the Sith. Asajj Ventress book with again, not Qui-Gon Jinn. Damn it. Quinlan Voss. Man, oh man. See, I'm pulling this from memory. Even though I try to script some of this, I'm just pulling from memory.
You're doing a good job, man. Keep it up.
Yeah, so that book was a whole arc that was written for the Clone Wars and never developed. Another one was what happened to Darth Maul after he lost his duel with Sidious. So they put out a comic book series of that called Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. That was in 2014. So this is now going backwards in the timeline because Rebels had already been announced but had not come out yet, I think. So we're going to cover the stories of the Clone Wars in comic book form instead. So basically, here's what happens. So Maul is in prison, and he's being tortured and used as bait because his connection with Mother Talzin will draw her out, Palpatine thinks. So he's just, at this point, he's just eliminating rivals across the board. He wants to make sure he's the only bad guy in the universe. He's already got his plan in for Order 66, and he just wants to make sure nothing gets in the way. What happens instead is that his Death Watch allies from Mandalore end up freeing him instead. So he starts regathering his troops. He basically consolidates power on Mandalore again, and that sends Grievous and the rest of Palpatine's forces over to Mandalore to get him there. What ends up happening is that Mother Talzin ends up making the ultimate sacrifice and dies in this comic book arc to save Maul, who then escapes. And that's pretty much all. That's all we know about him then until he shows up in Rebels next, okay? Now, at this point, what do you think of the character? Do you think that story would have been better in animation, or do you think it was kind of unnecessary since knowing that he just popped up in Rebels later? Did we need that interquel, as you were saying?
Again, it doesn't hurt to keep using the character if you're not going to make more animation, which I'm willing to be proven wrong with some of the later Clone Wars series that they made post Disney Plus even. But between Clone Wars, and I know there's a difference between the first series and series or two, and then there's Clone Wars that is a different 3D. Between the two, Rebels looks great. So if we're only focusing on visual acuity, like, I guess what I'm saying in a roundabout way is it's fine if you're going to make it into a comic book, but as a visual starting as a visual medium, I'm going to say it's better either as a film or as an animated show, because you're, at this point you're just trying to diversify your creative medium. Did it have to be a comic? Nothing has to be a comic. You can make all of this into a TV series. I don't think it's bad, though, just because it's not. What is interesting about the character at this point, again, not knowing what we're going to get in Rebels, for me, this is retroactive thinking, because Rebels, Maul's in this one too. Great. Totally fine with that. But thinking about the character as the kind of bad guy that won't die, now he's the anti-hero. Because he's not the good guy, but we know Palpatine is the bad guy. So what is Maul's purpose at this point? Is to be kind of the antagonist to the antagonist, which by design is kind of redeemable, right? Because once somebody goes from being the bad guy to the bad guy who fucks with the other bad guy, by design, they're kind of on the path to retribution. So is there a point where you get the white cloak wearing Maul who's fully reformed? No. He's too chaotic for that. But at least for me, that's where the character is. He's kind of the anti-evil. He just also happens to be evil.
Yeah, I've actually read this comic because Darth Maul is one of my favorite characters, and I love the Clone Wars. So I wanted to see what happened next, and really, I could see it working as another arc of the Clone Wars if the series had continued, but also sometimes you fall into that territory of telling too many stories. For me, this one is basically status quo. Like that's one of the biggest complaints that people have about the sequel trilogy, and even The Mandalorian is like we basically end where we began, and it just resets itself. And this is the same thing. Like this, the broad strokes of the story arc. You could say that yes, Mother Talzin died, so that's important for the characters within the Clone Wars. But otherwise, before this story arc, Maul was out there in the universe causing chaos, and then Palpatine put him down. At the end of this story, Maul's just back out there in the universe causing chaos. So it really just kind of undid the last story arc that Maul showed up in. It didn't really move anything forward aside from that, really. So for me, I'm actually okay with this one having been punted off to a comic. I think in a lot of cases with some of those stories from the Clone Wars that ended up not getting finished, I think it might have been for the best that we were left wanting a little bit more, because some of those stories just seem to be like stories for the sake of content rather than stories because they needed to be told, you know?
And how long does the Clone Wars need to go on? Eventually we have to say episode 3 happens.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Let's get past this point. There's only so many days in a year, right?
And I would love to cover that next, except that's not the order that we got the story, right? Ooh. Then we got Rebels.
Yes, you
and
did.
we'll go through this quickly because God, we've talked about this a lot. But yeah, so Maul is he tries to
Sabine.
forge
just more Sabine. It's fine.
Well, yeah, I mean we meet Sabine in the show, so that part's okay. And she does actually cross paths with Maul in vague senses, because this is where we get the Darksaber entering her possession, which is left behind on Dathomir by Darth Maul. So there is some connective tissue there for you. I don't mean to gloss over Sabine too much, but she's not really in the story too much, Joe. Sorry.
I'm going to forgive you this one time. It's fine.
Yeah.
The subject of tonight's discussion is Maul. Therefore, we don't have to dwell on Sabine any more than I'm about to.
Yeah. So we'll skip through the most of the points, but like we said, Maul's always going to backstab people, including blinding Kanan Jarrus, just because, like, they were fighting Inquisitors. They were on the same side. He was fighting Ahsoka and Kanan and Ezra against the Inquisitors. And then as soon as the Inquisitors were dispatched, well, Maul decided to take out Kanan's vision, which great shot, by the way. It's like Kylo, where, man, you take a lightsaber to the face and all that happens is you lose your eyesight or get a little nick, that makes you sexier, instead of, I don't know, getting half your head cut off. That's pretty good.
Well, that's how accurate Maul is, right? He's so accurate that as he's making that swing, it's just far enough to take out the eyeballs and totally miss, the brow or any of the other eye sockets surrounding bones, right? Yeah, the skin gets burned. Yeah, but the skin heals, right? Except for that one time. We had to build cybernetics for that. Don't ask questions.
Yeah. So if we could go like full on subreddit with this, would you say that was deliberate on Maul's part of not killing Kanan, but instead just blinding him so Ezra could be pissed off, and that was like step 1 along the path to the dark side?
What I remember about that episode specifically, it's a good build-up in the beginning of that series. I remember it being reactive to the situation, and that ties into what we've already talked about, where yes, Maul is the bad guy, but he wants to be the baddest guy, which means he's going to backstab you eventually. So I don't think he's playing enough 4D chess, Palpatine style, to manipulate Ezra, because ultimately he's trying to get access to ancient knowledge, right? That's how they frame it up in the show.
Yeah, he's there for the Sith holocron.
And I don't think he knows. I don't think he's playing that well. I think it's an opportunity to disable a potential immediate future rival. And that's all it is. If I don't take you out now, or at least cripple you in a way, I'm not going to get out of the situation. So again, it's that evil, that disposable, evil idea of until I need you, as long as you're needed, I'm gonna not kill you. But if I kill you, you're dead. If I blind you, then you're crippled, sitting here screaming for help, and that means that you're a trail that other people can pick up on. That's not me.
True.
So I can get away.
Okay, he's a honeypot. Got it.
100%.
I can totally see that. Yeah. So moving on to the duel that we don't ever want to talk about, but Maul does eventually learn through a Jedi and Sith holocron that Kenobi is on Tatooine. And he goes to Tatooine.
How did the Sith know that before Obi-Wan traveled there? Sorry, don't explain it. I'm sorry. I thought we were going subreddit with this.
I believe it was presenting a vision of the present. Honestly, I haven't watched Rebels since it aired because I just don't want to.
But there's so much Sabine in that show. Come on, AJ.
Oh, there's just not a fan of. This is why we have to have the disclaimer about the Virtual Cantina Network, because there are so many people who love Rebels, and I'm just not one of them, and neither is my brother. So between the two of us, like we have a hard time talking about that show. But yeah, we'll just skip right through and say like the duel was super short. Obi-Wan kills Maul. So we already know that there's Maul's official end. He's dead as dead gets. He falls into Obi-Wan's arms and asks if Obi-Wan is protecting the Chosen One. And Obi-Wan says yes. So this begins another question for the Reddit folks. The Chosen One was supposed to be a prophecy about Anakin. But Obi-Wan is watching over Luke. So, do you agree that Luke is the Chosen One, Joe?
Well, this is where we get into that word salad, right? Who's the Chosen One? Who is the one who's going to bring balance to the Force? Is it Anakin, or is it the father of Luke Skywalker? So he technically did, right? Is Luke Skywalker even balance to the Force? Are the twins the balance? Is it Luke and Leia? It's word salad, right? We're just saying words that can be ambiguous later on for the purpose of storytelling. And he asks him, "Are you protecting the Chosen One?" He says, "Yes." Well, maybe Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru were the Chosen One. I don't know. But I think asking that question, if we're sticking with our previous analysis of the character, this is where I kind of asked the question earlier. Is he in any way redeemable? Or is he just asking the question because he knows as long as Obi-Wan is protecting the Chosen One, that means Palpatine's ultimately going to lose, which means Maul gets what he really wants, which is, once again, if the Constantine reference is enough to be said here, it's like,
right.
I still win because you lose. So underwhelming, I'm sure, considering the flair that the character is known for. I'm not even going to argue that point. And for every analysis of that duel that tries to, again, fill in the gaps between the Obi-Wan of old and the Obi-Wan of Star Wars, aka A New Hope, we're trying to justify these differences. Okay, it's fine. Because You have somebody who has clearly grown, who has clearly mastered his craft, who knows he doesn't have to be aggressive to win the fight, and somebody who has not changed. Whatever. Was I dissatisfied the first time I saw it? Yes. Am I still mad about it? Not really. Because it's over.
Yeah. Knowing that it happened, it's easier to take on a rewatch for sure.
It is the exact opposite of their first encounter, where they have clashed with more strikes than they ever did, and it's just a constant descent of, are we doing this again? Okay, one shot, you lose. Like,
yeah,
whatever.
The one point that never comes up, which I think is kind of surprising, the nice thing about Maul being a Zabrak is that he's an alien. They can make up any lifespan they want. They never really actually harp on the fact that by the time he shows up on Tatooine to fight Obi-Wan for the last time, he's old. I'm assuming that he is old. I'm assuming he has like a semi-human lifespan, like, Obi-Wan. So he would be pretty old as well. They could have leaned into that too and said like he's not as sharp as he used to be, and that's why Obi-Wan was able to best him. Because if he's, if he lives for hundreds of years naturally, then he should have kicked Obi-Wan's ass. But he lost instead. So my headcanon says that he's also lost a step, but it's never confirmed. So we don't know that for sure.
You got to lean into, though, that Obi-Wan is the master of defense, right? So he hasn't mastered the form. He is the master. Like, he is the guy. He's the definition of you are never going to be more defensive with your lightsaber skills than Obi-Wan Kenobi has ever been. Therefore, did Maul lose a step? I don't think it matters. I think you're trying to attack the person who is better at defending himself than anybody else, if we're believing the plot of the show.
Yeah, basically Maul walked into his own demise because Kenobi just waited for Maul to attack and then responded. So I totally get that. Now here's again where it gets really confusing, because like we said, you can take a movie character, go to animation with it, because you can assume that people have seen the movies and that's why they're watching the TV show. Now, can you reverse it is the question, because in 2018 we get Solo and there's a cameo at the end, Ray Park reprising the role as Darth Maul, because Solo takes place before the events of Rebels. So how confusing is that as an audience member to see this guy that you thought was dead back and alive again in live action? Do you think they banked? I mean, there's many reasons why Solo might have tanked, but do you think they might have banked a little too heavily on people watching the Clone Wars to know that Darth Maul had survived?
I don't think they cared. I think it was, remember Darth Maul? I remember. And for everybody that saw that show, yes, the film was called, I said show a moment ago. For anybody that watched that film, it's called Solo, a Star Wars story, right? The fans are going to complain about it because it's not Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Well, if you cast the right person, you can tell that character's story at any point in his life, and I think that movie is good. It's underappreciated in the grand scheme. I think it's well worth more and more and more of whatever they were thinking when they greenlit that project. But to have a cameo from a character who was known in the TV series, I would say it's member berries if they didn't go far enough with the cameo to let the voice be the voice and let the madness be the madness, and even to have the sound effects of the cybernetics when he stands up. You're clearly trying to tie it in. It's not just Darth Maul for the sake of Darth Maul. There's a whole story being told with the character, and if you know absolutely everything about the character, if you've seen every show and you've watched and you read every comic, you know exactly what point in that film's storyline is occurring. You know where within the timeline of Star Wars it is occurring, just from that appearance, the way he carries himself, and the way he moves. That's it. You didn't need to know anything else if you're wanting to know where this story occurs in the timeline of Star Wars. As a fan, I'm underwhelmed because I wanted to see him do something. Ray Park
Yeah,
is not dead. We can have more Maul in the films if you want, guys. Come on.
Yeah, we've gone on record on the show as saying that Solo 2, or better yet, a Disney Plus show carrying on from the events of Solo, would be amazing. They've done too much stuff in the comics now. I don't think they're going to follow up in any film or TV version, but boy, would I love to see that. And they've steamrolled comics before, so if they want to talk about Crimson Dawn more in live action or animation, I'm all for it, man. I would love to see that, because like you said, I think there's only two ways that scene can be interpreted. One is, I've watched the Clone Wars, so now and Rebels, so now I know where this fits in the timeline, and that's cool. They brought him back into live action. Or I haven't seen anything since episode 1. Holy crap, I thought he was dead. What a cliffhanger. What a twist. So I think either way it works, right? It gets a little bit more confusing with the timeline yet, though, because we still have one season of the Clone Wars to go. So we get Disney Plus. They revived the Clone Wars for season 7.
We're already confused. It's fine.
Right. So now we're back before Rebels in the Star Wars timeline, but of course, it comes out years after Rebels, so we get to adapt to that, and we get what is probably the greatest arc of the Clone Wars, which is the final arc, the final 4 episodes of the 10-episode season of season 7 of the Clone Wars. And we get Darth Maul's ultimate downfall during the Siege of Mandalore. And this is what you're alluding to earlier, because one of the trivia bits I looked up said that, fun fact about Solo, it was the first time that the original actor who portrayed Darth Maul and then the voice of the animated character teamed up for Darth Maul to be one character. And it's like, no, that's not actually true, because Ray Park did the motion capture for the battle versus Ahsoka Tano on Mandalore. And boy, can you see it, right?
The first time I saw it was after I was aware that they brought him back to do the mocap. And there are things in that art style that they do that make it look a little more liquid from the films. There's a difference between a lightsaber that's being wielded in any of the films and the way they kind of made the lights wavy in the Clone Wars and the Rebels animated series. It's fine. It's not a one-to-one, but if you're that far into the Clone Wars, you don't want a one-to-one. You don't want the awkward mocap scene that looks like Reboot from the 90s of Darth Maul fighting Ahsoka Tano.
Right.
So the fact that they were able to find a happy medium there, and let's coordinate a fight, let's get Darth Maul in here, let's mocap it. Okay, now we know where all the lines are supposed to be. Dress it up, make it look like Clone Wars, and everybody's going to be happy with that. So, if anything, I think the real achievement there is that they chose to mocap a battle and then animate it instead of just purely bringing the battles from animation, which is what was done in the series up until that point. So it's whatever the artist can come up with how the lightsabers move and how the characters interact with each other. Let's bring a little bit of, I hate using the word real life, but let's bring back a little bit of reality and acting into the battle, and let the battle kind of stand on its own in that way. Yeah. I wonder, though, knowing the timeline of Maul, is there any opportunity for an Ahsoka Season 2 to have another appearance from Maul? Because the character's not really dead yet, is he?
No. Well, in Ahsoka Season 2, he would be, because Ahsoka takes place after Return of the Jedi. So Maul definitely dies before the events of A New Hope.
Before A New Hope, okay.
Yeah, and that's one thing I didn't mention.
We're in flashback territory then. Ahsoka needs to have a moment with Anakin in the World Between Worlds where he's like, remember that time you fought Maul? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Flash forward, Ray Park. Hell yes.
Dude, that'd be great.
Just do it. Just fucking do it. Disney, look at me. Look at me right now. I know you're not, or are you? The algorithm is looking for you. You have somebody that's going to read a report, and it's going to say that I said this. You have an opportunity with anything flashback to just make it happen. Ray, just let Ray Park wear the makeup one more time. Or 7 more times. How about 8? How about a Maul live action series? I'm sorry, I'm getting off track, AJ, with my original question.
Oh, you're well within your rights to do so, because I think the reason we've been going this long and haven't even gotten to the new show yet is because Darth Maul fucking rules. And the more we get of him is actually okay, because, like I said, compared to Boba Fett, he becomes more intriguing the more stories they tell with him instead of less. So I think this is a case of a villain done right. So I'm all about it. Shall we talk briefly then about the new show to kind of bring this thing full circle here?
I mean, I would love to. As soon as it's available for streaming in all episodes. Right now, what we have is a little bit of a tease, don't you think? And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. So what I don't think is immediately known yet about the show is where exactly this fits in his timeline. It's definitely post Clone Wars season 7. This is, post Order 66. So it's somewhere before Rebels, because obviously he dies. Whether it's before or after his appearance in Solo, we don't know. It's supposed, I would guess he's probably leading Crimson Dawn at this time. But that's about all we know for sure. There's a brief write-up that they've written on the Star Wars official website, for example, and the trailers seem to be teasing that he's busy building his criminal empire on this planet where the Empire basically doesn't have a hold. It's like Andor, where Andor starts off on Morlana and it's just local security and it's not the Empire cracking down. So basically that's fertile territory for a crime lord to run because the Empire is not there. The animation looks incredible. Miranda mentioned that earlier. You've seen the trailers, Joe?
Absolutely. And I'm trying to judge just from the visual choices. I don't think we can really take anything from that, because when we talk about Solo and the cameo, there's obviously the horns are different. He's been through some stuff, so he's coming off that nuts period in his history. So looking at this, well, we know at least one thing. He's got legs.
True.
So we know enough to know that if he's building the criminal empire and I don't even know what I'm trying to say. We know that he's trying to build an army while still disrupting the Jedi that are aware that he's still alive. We've got to be at some point before Rebels, I would think. And I don't know that we can say explicitly it is before or after any moment in the Clone Wars. But I guess it would have to be after Clone Wars if he's got his 2 legs again. So maybe that's the answer. This may be prior to his interactions with Ezra and Sabine at all. This could be that little dark period of his life where he's just trying to be bad, but really he's kind of chaotic.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that this is prior to Rebels, if I had to guess. So let's take a look here. I want to show you. So this is the evolution of the character, and stupid Reddit won't let me just get the image itself, unfortunately. But we're looking at, you got Spider Maul in season 4 of Clone Wars. Season 5, he gets better robot legs, and then he gets standard legs. He looks derpy in Rebels. Can we agree on that?
I think he's supposed to. Because he's kind of descending a little bit into his madness within Rebels again. So I kind of want to say it's okay because, yeah, he looks a little derpy, but he's supposed to be kind of chaotic. I'm a little bit. I've had a little bit too much of whatever it is, if you know what I mean.
Not true. Fortunately, though, this new show looks incredible. So I want to take a look at this real quick.
I want to believe, I know you're pulling it up now, I want to believe that the show is going to be as dark themed as the trailer is appearing to be. And I know we've seen, visually dark trailers in the past, and then the movie doesn't end up being that way. But this, I'm kind of hoping that they stick to it's in the shadows, it's a little bit underground, it's a little bit, nobody knows he's here, and we're the only ones who can stop him. But the show is called Maul, so we're gonna get the right kind of backstory, I think. I can't even predict what piece of his puzzle they're gonna fill in with this. Like I said, I want it to be that dark period in his life where he hasn't quite fought the Emperor yet, so he thinks he's bad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that, one, we get some other characters in the series that we can spin off other stories from, because otherwise this is just Maul ending up where we already understand him to be. So there's got to be some other hook, right? But I also, like you said, I want to see how he goes from the crime lord that we saw in Clone Wars to the crazy old man on the Sith planet in Rebels. So we know he's going to lose. He's got to lose. That he always loses. But it's more like, how does he lose? What breaks him down to where he just goes and decides that Sith holocrons are the way he's going to take over the galaxy? I think there's still some interesting, meat on that bone, as they like to say. But yeah, this is one of the first teaser images up on the screen now that they released from the trailers, and the subsequent trailers, of course, looks better in animation, but thanks to YouTube, I can't actually play that for you. But I love the fact that they've taken the Clone Wars animation style and just keep evolving it, right? Like, it evolved over the course of the Clone Wars. It got better with season 7, and then the Bad Batch came out, which was even better still. And now this is, again, like its own sort of like tweak to the formula. Like, you even see like his lightsaber, how it's not just like a straight beam. It's like a little rippled, almost broken, like Kylo Ren's. Like Miranda was saying, I think that really suits like the style of the show and the character. Like, if you're talking about like a bad guy and you really want up the violence, I think that's how you do it, right?
I want you to bring up that other picture again, because when I look at this, the midsection belt seems to be accentuated on purpose with the design. And that makes me think that he's hiding more of how the legs join to the body. And that might give us a decent indication about where this is in the timeline. Obviously, the trailer is going to show us that he's being persecuted by both sides. And there's a Star Destroyer in it, so there's got to be Palpatine, right? But is there going to be Vader also? Are we going to get another junction point of Vader and Maul interacting and be able to spin that into a bit of a... I remember you when you were the Chosen One, when you were Anakin. And it can all just be character design, and that's the end of the conversation. But going from image 2 to image 3, this design for the series, that midsection is much more accentuated, much wider, and almost intentionally tighter. Like the leather's been cinched up, like he's hiding something. So maybe this is going to be after the leg build. Just pick a spot and fill in the character. More is better with Maul. Something about the way he just keeps messing up his own plan. He's just the disruptor of everything.
Yeah, and it could be. It really could be. Let me see if I'm really on my game here. I wonder if I could do this. No, dang it. Okay. There's
AJ was trying the overlay for the audio listeners, and it didn't work.
Yeah, well, Chrome has that split view feature now, So I was hoping
Oh,
that
yeah.
I could share the split view and get both images up at once, but not that good apparently. So unfortunately,
Good try,
I
though.
cannot present both. But yeah, I think Son of Dathomir takes place right after Clone Wars season 5. So I would say that between Son of Dathomir and this appearance in Rebels that we see here on the screen, that's the Maul that we're looking at in the show. But it looks badass. So I don't really care. As long as it looks good and tells an interesting story, that's all I think we really need, right?
That's all you ever need, man. And it's Maul. So it's like if somebody popped up and said the show was called Vader. It's like, I'm there. What's it going to be? Don't care. It's Vader. Oh, Maul. Don't care. Going to be there. Going to watch
it. An interesting thing, though. This is something that I've always wanted, per my own headcanon, I've always wanted to see Maul versus Vader. So we might get that.
You could. It is possible in the timeline of their characters that it could occur, even if we don't know about it yet. And as much as it's been prequel heavy lately, why not?
Well, I think that's a subject for a different podcast, but I have noticed that the most popular stuff that Disney has done has simply continued on what George Lucas began rather than their own original stuff. The sequel stuff is not catching on as much as it calls back to Return of the Jedi or the Clone Wars kind of stuff.
I tried to tell you all that it was a movie for kids, and you didn't listen.
Right? So here's the other weird thing that I wanted to bring up. This is let's go with this layout. That's a little bit bigger. This is the release schedule. We get 2 episodes a week starting April 6th. So it culminates on May 4th, which I love the, perfect landing there. But we get 10 episodes and it's over in a month. It's just like season 2 of Andor, where they dropped 3 episodes in 4 consecutive weeks. Do you like this kind of a thing? This mid between the 1-day drop and the drip feed?
Personally, I'm a fan of the original Netflix streaming style of just drop the whole series and let me watch it, because I like serialized content. I'm a fan of audiobooks. I am always on board with an extended story. Longer movies are better than shorter movies in general, in my opinion. So the idea of we're going to drop a couple episodes and then let you think about it, that's just the classic TV model. And I feel like at this point we've gotten past this idea of we need to trickle feed everything. But I think this is by design. It's a bit of a business choice, and it's a bit of a let's give you time to think and consume what we've given you, so that it's not just a conversation about the series as a whole where you missed something. Now the conversation is part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. Give everybody time to, stay hyped about the show. I don't really have a choice, right? If you're not going to give me the whole series in one shot, then obviously I've got to pick these up as they go. But for me, if I have a choice, just give me the whole thing and let me watch it. And I guarantee I'm going to sit and watch the whole thing, because that's how much I'm interested in what's going on here.
Yeah, this might be one where, as much as I want to stay up to date, so I would absolutely crush the first couple episodes, I think I might actually try to get a little bit behind so I can binge. I think that'd be a really cool way to go about this one.
Yeah, the one episode title that really stands out to me is Pride and Vengeance, because that's going to tell kind of plainly that Maul story of it is vengeance and it is pride that drives me to continue fucking with this, because at the end of the day I'm mad that this guy cut me in half, but I'm also mad at that guy because he told me I was his guy and then he cut me off at the very end. Anytime you end a series with something called finale, that could be anything. There's no indication of how this is ultimately going to end or what the overall premise is going to be. We have previews and nudges of what this show is going to be about, but chapter 10 there, finale, yeah, I know nothing. This doesn't tell me anything because it can end however it wants to.
You know what? I get the impression that is not the real episode title. Like the episode title might be a spoiler.
You're muted, AJ.
Why am I muted?
For the audio listeners, AJ's microphone has ceased outputting audio, and he is rapidly trying to figure out why that is. And I am killing time while staring at a release schedule for the series Maul, which is airing first on April 6th on Disney Plus and finishing on May the 4th, 2026.
I'm not entirely sure that that's accurate.
AJ is still not coming through as much as he wants to. So let me look at some comments here, even though I don't have the ability to pull these up for everybody.
I'm not entirely sure that I am not coming through, actually.
Oh, Kale decided to bail on the evening. Of course he did.
So, on the off chance that
Kale said he's working on the new single today. That's exciting. John Phillips, Anakin is. Kenobi thought he was until betrayed. Now Kenobi thinks it's Luke. Yeah, we kind of talked about that, right? Who is the chosen one? Is it Anakin? You were the chosen one, but then he wasn't. So, well, maybe it's your son. Oh, joke's on you. It's going to be both your kids, because that's the premise that we're telling here. I'm still excited for it. AJ is all over these backgrounds right now.
Yeah, AJ's having trouble. There we go. I have full input, Joe, so I don't know why you can't hear me. I don't know why you can't hear me because I think I'm coming through just fine.
Dead audio, man.
I will adjust then, but I don't think it's on my end. This is great because we're just trying to wrap this thing up anyway.
If it is just me, please say something down in the comments, everyone, but I'm not hearing a word AJ is saying right now.
Well, I have actually switched inputs, so now I'm on a terrible
I'm checking the stream.
And I can tell you that my audio source is not the problem here.
So I'm going to go back to my main microphone here, and I think we're going to wrap up shop here.
Ooh,
this works because I'm going with the outro, whether it's working or not. There we go. All right. Going solo. So anyway, while Joe figures out his audio for the outro here, I do want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. Joe, can you hear me now? Joe's back in, but Joe cannot hear me. Fantastic. What a great way to end the show. So anyway, guys, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download, which is yours to keep whether you keep Audible or not. Now, what I would love to hear on our socials or on our Discord, which is discord.nerfherdercouncil.com, is your predictions for this show. I want to know if you're hyped for it, if you think we've had enough Darth Maul already, or if you're just ready for something new and fresh. Okay, so John Phillips has confirmed that I am live still. So, Joe, it's on your end. The podcasting guru himself cannot actually get his audio figured out.
Isn't that interesting? I popped out and I came back in, and now I can hear you just fine.
Hey, look at that.
Curse you, StreamYard!
So I wanted to finish up with this. Like we said, finale doesn't sound like a very final episode title for me. So I think that might be hiding a spoiler, the same way Thunderbolts Asterisk did. So what do you think about that? Do you think that that's going to be something worth talking about?
Of course it is. And in fact, I'm willing to play the cynical Star Wars fan all the way to the end and say, that is going to be what the series is actually about, and everything else that occurs is going to be meaningless. So, surprise, we have one plot point that's going to really matter. Right. And by the time we get there, that's the end of the series. And you know what? That's fine. That's not a complaint. Not really. You're going to get, 40 minutes times 10? You're going to get about 4 hours-ish of a Maul story. something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's
Call
call
it
it 20 times 10, 22 times 10, something like that.
Yeah, it's we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun with more Maul. If the series is called Maul, the only real mistake is going to be if they give him the same amount of screen time he already got on Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, it's called Maul, but it's not really about Maul, or not really from his perspective. That will be the only mistake they can make with this.
That is an interesting point. Damn, we're trying to wrap up shop, but you're actually making good points here. Yeah, I mean, it's the villain, right? And everyone remembers the villains. They remember the Emperor and Vader so much, but actually, in terms of number of lines and minutes of screen time, they get very little. Like, the villains are usually better when you get less time with them, and it makes every minute on screen more impactful. But if the show is called Maul, you want to see Maul, right?
I want to see 100% of what's going through his head. I want to see everything he's thinking, what he's going back to in the back of his head. I want to hear plot points. You know, it's a bad example because it's not really a good show, but I want the Penguin series to the Batman. I want Maul to be the focus. And even if he goes up and down with how bad he is or how good he pretends to be, ultimately I want him to stab somebody in the back. That's what I want to see.
Oh, he's got to. He's absolutely got to. Otherwise, I mean, what are we doing, right?
Absolutely. And it's got to be the first episode he does it, and then the fourth, and then the seventh. It just has to keep happening. Like, just keep not redeeming yourself, and just keep being Maul. That's all I want out of this.
All right. I think that's a good place to leave it. We will definitely revisit this when the series is over, because it happens on May 4th, which is, of course, Star Wars Day. It is also the Boxing Day to my birthday. It is the day after my birthday. So if I've got anything to say about what our show will be after the series wraps up, it's going to be a series wrap on this. And hopefully we'll find out whether or not we get another season of it. Might be a limited run. Who knows? But in the meantime, Joe, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. Where can the people listen to your dulcet tones?
Oh, the dulcet tones of the guy named Discuss Metal Joe can always be heard on DiscussMetal.com and TheFrightLab.com. If you like horror movies, you need to be there. If you like heavy metal bands, you need to be there also.
What you got coming out soon?
Ooh, what do we have coming out soon? You know, we've made a triumphant return with an episode on Author and Punisher, and this guy over here, you know, to my left, or my right, your left, decided to talk about Wolfgang Van Halen. So might bring a little bit of the vault out. A couple of things that were recorded a while back that didn't get released. But let's just say that with episode 300 not that far away, I'm looking for something big, something metal, something that's got a lot of motor behind it, if you know what I mean.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good teaser right there. As for us, we are the Nerf Herder Council. We are on every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time now. I know my time shifting, unlike my brother. So we are all good on that. Now, the next time you can catch us, which will be both JT and myself, that's going to be on Wednesday, April 8th at 8 p.m. So make sure you set your reminders for that. You can also click the notify bell on YouTube. So when we post our next live stream, you will be notified that is upcoming and you will not miss an episode. In the meantime, yes, there are other places you can contact us. We do have that Discord server, which is discord.nerfherdercouncil.com. You can also buy Nerf Herder Council merchandise at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. So, Joe, any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
Are you excited for Maul, AJ?
Yes. Star Wars fans are eating good this year. We get an awesome successor to the Clone Wars series, followed by the Mandalorian and Grogu. I'm sorry, the Mandu and Grogu. Yeah, Mandu and Grogu on May 22nd. So we only have a mere 18 days between the finale of Maul and the theatrical return of Star Wars. So I think it's a pretty damn good year to be a Star Wars fan.
I would say my final thoughts are, for every misstep within Star Wars that we all love to complain about, there's been a lot of good Star Wars in the past 10 years. I'm ready for a nice run of it's good, it's good, it's good. And Maul's a pretty easy target if you want to bring something good out that the fans are going to enjoy. So I'm excited for it. I'm ready to lock in and just take those episodes 2 at a time, because that's the order they're giving them to us. And let's just keep loving these franchises that we love. Let's break our trend of it's going to be amazing and it was terrible as soon as we're done seeing it. Come on, let's look forward to this one.
Yeah. I was going to say hype is part of the fun. So if you think you're going to enjoy this more by not getting hyped and then being right later when it's no good, you're wrong. That is not the way to have more fun. So get hyped, enjoy it. And if it turns out bad, it turns out bad. But in the meantime, it's so much fun to speculate. So with that, I think we're going to close up shop here. And next time, JT will be back on the show. And
let the hate flow through you.
Exactly. Thank you for the soundboard there, Joe. So I have no idea what our next topic is going to be about. Maybe we'll talk about the first couple episodes of Maul, since that'll be out by that point. Or maybe we'll talk about something else in case my brother has a better idea. So in any case, but guys, thanks for tuning in so much. We will catch you next time.